Greetings, my name is Nate and we'll be discussing the visual appeal of movies. For many years, I thought the process of movie making was only getting better. I still remember when I first watched the original live-action Transformers and Iron Man movies. Back when I first watched both of these movies, I was absolutely astonished by the final turnout of the character designs. The effects in these movies were mostly CGI, but the characters also looked 100% real metal. Not long after, a film called Avatar was released. The computer-built environment in this movie blew me away as much as the character designs in Transformers and Iron Man. The landscapes of Pandora were well drawn, beautiful to watch, and again, they looked real. Now cut to Christmas of 2012 when I am sitting at the Scotiabank Theatre waiting for The Hobbit. A movie which I was looking forward to watching ever since I saw Lord of the Rings not too long before. However, as I was watching, something seemed off. I could tell right off the bat that Middle-earth looked different. Comparing the creatures and locations from the Hobbit films to Lord of the Rings, everything in the Hobbit films just looks too glossy, rubbery, artificial. In a word, fake. The final visual turnout of these movies may have been for a few reasons. Decisions such as to shoot the movies at 48 frames per second, the switch from old-fashioned film to digital cameras, and to have more green-screened effects for the action scenes. While the computer-generated effects from the Lord of the Rings trilogy could be considered dated by this point, I thought the mythical creatures in those movies fit their environment much more than those in The Hobbit. For a slightly more recent example, let's take a look at the different times when Spider-Man was seen on the big screen. First, there's the original trilogy, released between 2002 and 2007. While some of the computer-generated effects may be considered dated much like Lord of the Rings, some of the visuals from this trilogy also still hold up. There are moments in these movies where computer-constructed scenes smoothly transition into scenes filmed on a real camera. For example, during the finale swing in the first film, it starts off entirely CGI, but as Spider-Man dips down toward the cars on the street, it transitions into a shot filmed on a real camera. It is a smooth transition because the camera's perspective is turning to a different angle, and because of the attention to detail with the lighting and saturation. Now moving on to The Amazing Spider-Man duology from 2012 and 2014. Spider-Man's suit design changes in the second film to be less skin-tight. Whether the suit is live-action or built in a computer, it looks like something you would normally see on top of a human body because it allows for more wrinkles. The narration of this behind-the-scenes video describes it best.
And notice the wrinkling detail in his suit. The new suit design is much looser than it was in previous iterations, so a full-on cloth sim gave us the opportunity to bring out another layer of detail, with wrinkles driven not only by his movement but also react to the environment, like fluttering in the breeze during freefall.
And then we get to Spider-Man Homecoming from 2017, which takes a decent-looking on-set costume of Spider-Man's suit, but then completely covers it with CGI, which is very frustrating to watch most of the time. Some scenes in this movie could look way more convincing without as much green screening as they had. For example, There's a shot from the trailers which showed Tom Holland in his Spider-Man suit climbing a set-piece wall which resembled the Washington Monument. You could also see the making of the scene in behind-the-scenes footage. However, in the actual film, the on-set work was completely covered with CGI. What was the point? So this begs the question, if a studio is just going to digitally replace an actor, then why bother even having them on set? In my opinion, this original trailer shot looks much better than this. Shortly after this digitally altered shot, there's a close-up of the suit, and while it has slightly improved, it still doesn't look the best. This spider drone looks even worse. The prop builders could have built a model of this drone's body and only animated the fangs and legs, but the studio decided to make the entire thing CG. This decrease in visual quality does not just apply to Spider-Man. This issue also applies to other major franchises. Other Marvel characters, DC, The Fast and Furious, Star Wars, the Jurassic series, and many more cinematic franchises have had a noticeable drop in visual quality around the 2010s decade. So why has this happened? Why does this suit look so real, but this one looks so plasticky? After watching a plethora of movies this past year, both old and recent, and conducting some research into the visual effects industry, I have found that tight production schedules are to blame. Tight production schedules have impacted the industry in two ways. Over the past few years, there has been a lot of increasing competition in the filming industry, visual effects included. This has lowered profit margins, resulting in poor working conditions for VFX artists. It is now very common for employees of VFX studios to get underpaid and overworked. They are given short deadlines, requiring them to work a ton of overtime. For this reason, the artists working on blockbuster films don't seem to have enough time to perfect effects anymore. This issue is most apparent with superhero movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and somewhat to DC movies as well. Since Marvel was purchased by the Walt Disney Company in 2009, Marvel has been less involved in the production of their films. For example, they no longer work on the visual effects. They outsource their post-production work to other companies. Some of these companies include Framestore, Scanline VFX, Weta Digital, and Method Studios. Marvel's recent movies have had different VFX teams working on different scenes of the same film, and this reduces continuity and generally results in a less immersive visual style. The competition is so fierce that even VFX companies that have previously won awards are in danger of going bankrupt. For example, the Vancouver-based company MPC permanently shut its doors in mid-December, despite winning an Academy Award for its work on Life of Pi. The second reason why movies are declining visually is because computer-generated effects are used too much. First, let's take a look back at the original Jurassic Park. That movie only has 6 minutes of CGI. Now compare that to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is chock full of CG dinosaurs. The tight production timeframes discussed earlier are forcing movie producers to rely more and more heavily on CGI, even when CGI might not be totally necessary. Not to say I'm against the use of CGI, however. I mostly appreciate it in scenes seemingly impossible to film at a real studio. In some cases, storytelling can be enhanced through CGI and visual effects. You don't really need to use CGI for things like walls, a gun, or a field of flowers. The overuse of CGI sometimes results in less realistic visuals and reduced suspense. A good example of this is Black Panther. In most of the scenes when Black Panther is fighting while wearing his suit, there isn't enough suspense because he is just a computer-generated figure shaped like a human, not an actual stunt person in a suit. I was able to ignore this for most of the film, but during the climactic battle scene, I had a hard time getting over the fact that I was watching these two cartoon Black Panthers fighting in a dark computer-generated environment. This fight scene looked as physically weightless as Wolverine on the Statue of Liberty in the first X-Men. Compare this one-on-one to the tribal fight scenes from earlier in the film, and the contrast is huge. During one fight, I'm on the edge of my seat in suspense, while during the other, I don't feel any tension knowing that they aren't real people. In this day and age, it is very rare to find visuals in movies which simply define beauty. I have liked going to the theater to get immersed into alternate fictional realities. Now, I just get sucked back into reality far too easily. I feel like in the future of movie making, there will be a point where we feel like we are just watching a video game without actually playing it. There may become a time when moviegoers forget the times when movies were filmed with minimal use of computers. I am just hoping that in the future, film studios will focus less on the money and more on the artistry.